Welcome to another Founder Wisdom Pod. We have Andrew McLeod on the podcast today. He's CEO at Certn. Not his first company, was previously co-founder at EMA Products. He's also a board member. He's in Vancouver or Victoria, British Columbia, if my memory's real. And yeah, as you might know, I'm from Montreal, so fellow Canadian right there. Certn is global powerhouse in KYC and AML and background checks for the titans of the business world. So, Andrew, welcome to the pods. Tell me a bit more about yourself and what you're up to nowadays.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, Charles, we go back a number of years, so it's great to catch up here
Yeah.
live in front of everyone. A little bit about myself. Proud father of two. Got a little boy and a little girl, and I want to say like a retired surfer. I love everything action sports, and kind of participating in team sports in general. I'm not a good sports watcher because I feel like I have really bad ADHD and don't sit still for very long. So I've Certn is my life basically. Started the company with my best friends. I guess 9 years ago now, which is crazy. And now I've got like 400 of the most incredible people in the world that are with me on my vision.
That's incredible. And yeah, it's pretty rare to grow a company that way as you did in Canada, right? Like Canada is not known to scale companies like that. So I think you chose the right niche as well. What other ingredients would you attribute to certain success?
COVID was a big one for us. So at the time, there was about 19 people at Certn when COVID happened. We had just raised our seed round. And I remember we had a conversation. It was like, what are we going to do right now? We are either going to, hiring's not going to happen for a little while. What are we going to do? I'm like, we're doubling down. Like, hiring managers are bored. Property managers aren't showing properties. Like, they're improving systems. Like, all systems go. Like, we sell harder than anyone, while everyone else is on their back foot. We got to target the industries that aren't going to be decimated by this. So our biggest clients were airlines actually in January of 2020. By April of 2020 it was grocery, pharmacy, healthcare, like any essential services, and the company just went through the roof. So I feel like we were right time, right place, right investors, right team to be able to grow the company really, really quickly and add a lot of value in a space that was honestly really, really challenging from the existing competitors didn't have a lot that was exciting. And on top of that, it was really hard to get the information that we had or we were able to get access to. So it was kind of the perfect storm, to be honest.
Right. Could you describe Certn for people that don't know what KYC and AML is?
Sure. In layman's terms, if you want to know something about a consenting individual anywhere in the world, except for North Korea and sometimes Russia, we can tell you. So that could be, background screening. It could be client onboarding. So think, onboarding someone for a bank account, lending to someone, renting to someone. Basically, if you want to trust somebody, we build trust between businesses and individuals. And the goal is to mobilize greater futures. So the idea is like, how do we give fast access to great people to opportunities, whether that be a place to live and a loan, a car, a house, your next job is probably the one that we're most well known for. That's the dream.
Right. And humanity was built on trust. Tell me about the history of trust, how we used to transact with one another, and where is that going with AI, where that could be in 10 to 20 years from now?
Oh man. It's crazy how much trust has changed even over kind of the last 5 years, let alone all time. When you think of even our parents' generation, you were lent money at the bank based on your relationship with a banker, right? It was, how well do you know insert name at the bank to be able to get access to a loan or a line of credit or an opportunity. When you crossed a border or went to rent an apartment or something like that. Like, this was all based on your social credit within your community, and the thing that connected the trusted person in that community that was trusted by the head office of the bank, or the underwriters, the adjudicators, whatever. Fast forward a little bit to 90s, 2000s. All of a sudden it's like it's all about your credit as well as your relationship. And now your trustworthiness is basically left to, well, prior to this it was all credit reporting, and then like if you show up on a list anywhere. Now it's like it's your interactions, and that's not just face to face with someone. It's you know uh, how are you using systems, social media, all this kind of stuff. Not necessarily stuff that's used for for your employment, or for being lent money to, or as like a property, but like this is how you build trust with humans. So like, and it's got to be instant because we move so fast. If you're having to wait like weeks to hire someone, or weeks to lend to someone, like they've gone somewhere else and done something else. So trust now is not like it was 50 years ago where it's built over time. Like, it's got to be instant. Like, you got to know that you can trust someone really, really quickly. And that's where we want to provide the tools to be able to do that. And eventually, like, our goal is, how do we provide that trust across borders, across screens? And then also, how do we provide that between kind of humans and AI, and the AI that accompanies humans? My vision for the future, my vision of what I think the future is going to look like, is that we don't show up to jobs, we don't show up to life ourselves. We show up supported by agents, supported by AI. The value of me as an employee, or as a tenant, or just in general, is not going to just be the value of me, but it's also going to be the value of the team, that doesn't necessarily have to be humans anymore, that I bring to the table. And that's going to be how I create wealth, or I create value in society, not just what I do with my hands every day.
And wouldn't it be magical to just have the option to go on chain when I go with a client contract, and that chain would judge me on my performance and see if I'm trustful or not, if I delivered or not? I would throw myself in there. I would throw myself in the fire. And even like personally, right? Do I do what I say, or am I a shit talker?
Yeah.
I think that would be amazing, and that corporation would be a quadrillion-dollar company.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. What we're trying to do is we're trying to give everybody their own information that they can store. So essentially, kind of taking the credentials you have and putting them on chain so that they don't need to be verified, because they've been verified by the issuer. So, you think you got a degree, your degree can live in your Apple Wallet that's, issued through Certn. Your credentials, your past history, as your references, those can be verified, in that the person who gave you that reference is verified as a real person, and that they have actually worked for your company, or that you have worked for them. And you can have this level of trust from all of those things. I mean, think about the number of great things that you have every day that you wish you could share to get access to an opportunity. And you can't, because it's like, well, how do I know I can trust that information? So it's like this holistic view of trust, which is like, yes, you are who you say you are, but also all of the people that have said great things about you are who they say they are, and all the things that you say that you can do, or have done, or are licensed to do, are legitimate. That is like the ultimate. That is the ultimate pillar of trust. And most importantly, for those that you know, for those that have that level of trust or those qualifications, how do you make it super easy for them to get access to this stuff? Because that's like, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, where you are in the economic food chain. It's like, this is your ability to level up because you can be trusted faster. Like, why choose one person over the other? You can actually choose them based on their credentials, and not, your gut feel, or, your unconscious bias.
Right. And take credit score, for example. I think credit score should be part of the equation, but not the total equation of if someone should receive credit or not. What should be other factors? Let's say that they're onto something big, right? They're an entrepreneur and they're about to hit big cash, but you still don't want to loan them because of past data. How would you make, for example, credit score more efficient?
I mean, I think credit scoring I think credit scoring can be more efficient, but it's so few factors, right? Like there's the credit scoring element or the element of a credit score, which is like, have you lived up to the commitments that you've made? And I think that's really important as part of like a general score. There's also the part of the credit score, which is, like, what do you have? So how do you evaluate people on potential and past history? Like some of the best tenants, some of the best people to lend to might be fresh out of school and have no credit. They've got no job history. So, like, what are the other things that you can use to evaluate someone who has the potential to be incredible? Someone who's showed up and delivered at school every day is likely credible. Someone who's lived up to their commitment, showed up to their job every day and done their job. Someone who started a business and delivered real value to their customers day in and day out, like that's a credible person. So how do you start incorporating all that kind of stuff into, how you think about trusting people, all within the confines of like, you want to do it in a way that is fair and that the information is relevant. Like, you shouldn't be judged on your credit worthiness based on your, I don't know, personal hygiene. Like think of something like random, like just because you got bad breath doesn't mean you shouldn't have a job. It's like you should be, if you're fulfilling what you say you're going to do every day, regardless of your credit score, like you should, you're a good credit risk. And so how do we show the world what is a good, not just credit risk, but like who is trustworthy?
And as the guy that specializes in creating algorithms to see if someone is a good hire or not, what are these components in this algorithm of knowing if someone is going to deliver the task or not?
So we don't make algorithms to assess whether someone's a good hire or not. That's the decision of the hiring manager or the lender. Like in whatever situation we're doing, we're historians. So the innovation that we bring to the table is like, how do we give them history faster? How do we give them history in a good digestible way? Now, so that's Certn as a business. I can't say whether someone's good or bad. That's relevant to the position or what it might be. As an employer, someone who's hired hundreds or thousands of people in my career, there are definitely, pieces of advice that I can give to people on what makes a great hire. And typically what makes a great hire is someone who shows up every day. Like if there was a way to track, if there was a way to concretely, factually track someone who showed up every day and delivered, that would be so incredibly valuable. I mean, it's hard in this world to do that. Like I don't know if there's I don't know if the laws would allow a system to do that, but I mean, I'm sure you feel the same
It
way. Like
should.
what what I want to know when I hire someone is like, do they have the knowledge and experience that they say they do, and are they going to show up? Like and I don't just mean like, come in and punch a clock. Like, are they going to show up every day looking to bring it? Are they going to show up like, you know, the Stanley, the Florida Panthers. I wish I was saying the Edmonton Oilers as a Canadian, but or any
The
Canadian team.
Canucks.
But are they? Yeah, are they going to show up? I mean, I don't know if the Canucks have been really showing up, but are they going to show up every day and give it like 110%? And 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 that's what I look for when I'm bringing someone in. It's like, what is their potential more than their performance? Because that's the thing that I can unlock.
And your platform, certain, it does show some red flags, right? Like if someone has a criminality bounce, which is a red flag. Obviously, there are some exceptions to the rules, and some people have been set up by the system to be criminals, right? And that needs to change. But what would be other red flags that the platform would show up about someone before I actually hire them?
Yeah, so for employment, from an employment perspective, it's mostly okay. Are they a criminal? To be honest, it's funny because you think that's like a test for whether somebody should have a job or not. It's actually whether they're truthful or not. Like, do they have a criminal record, and are they being open about it? A lot of people that have a criminal record are still like the best fit for the job, It's just when they don't disclose it, because we give the opportunity for people to disclose it. Employers have to give people the opportunity to disclose it. And it's when they don't that there's the bigger issue. I would say the biggest issue is actually are people who they say they are, and are people lying about their credentials, because that happens way more often than you think. Right
Oh
now,
yeah.
like North Koreans are trying to get into every data business everywhere. Like I can give you countless examples of and North Koreans, and which is I mean, this is partially conspiracy now, but like they have better AI, they have access to better AI technology, specifically voice AI, than we do. No latency,
What?
no, yeah, like
What?
you go on these interviews with these deep fakes, and it's like this is a real person. You know, there are a couple tricks.
Data,
What's
and
that?
then
Sorry.
and what happens if like they actually hire the deep fake? It get access to the data, and then it resells that data and wreaks havoc.
So somebody shows up and they work for a few weeks. It's typically their like software engineering roles are most common in IC positions, support, and they work like a normal person. It's actually a different person that shows up than the deep fake often. Someone who looks relatively similar. Like the North Koreans in particular, like are pretty good at like, they have a deep fake of somebody that has a LinkedIn profile, has all these connections, is like has the perfect resume for the job that you're doing, and seems like a legitimate person. And they've been warming up these LinkedIn profiles for a while. Like, 500 plus connections, been on for a long time, and you're like, there's no way this person is fake, and you'll actually see a different person show up to work on the first day. Um, so that's like, I mean,
Yeah,
it's and then it's internal threat. So you've got to verify the identity of people. So like a lot of people are like, oh, just do a criminal record check. It's fine. If you don't verify the identity of the person, they're going to give you a name and a social security number of someone that is not a criminal. That's pretty much it. But they're also going to give you a name of someone that like either isn't them or doesn't exist. But they've created a bank account in that person's name, and they're going to be super qualified. Like when you do the interviews with these AIs, it is almost impossible to tell, like unless you're on video, um, which often they won't do video. They'll say, hey, I'd prefer not to do an interview over video. They'll do it over phone, or they'll turn their camera off. When they do video, it is quite good. But like if you tell them to put their hand in front of their face, or you give them some of the cues that you would. The other thing is switch the name of the person on the interview. So if they're interviewing with Charles, change it to Andy, and then watch them say the wrong name even when you correct them. There's like little things, but like it's happening a lot. Like
that's crazy.
we you hear about it a little bit, like, but it happens a lot. And it is, I mean, it's insanely cool to kind of be on the forefront of this, because you don't think like, why would someone make a deep fake so they could have a job? It's like,
Yeah, there's that. And why would North Koreans be into that? It's like reselling data. It's like ransoms and attacks, right? It's
gosh,
destabilizing other countries, getting access to the latest LLM. All the not so good reasons, right?
yeah. Well, I mean, they target specifically infrastructure companies. They target companies remote work is like is pre 2020. There wasn't the same remote work culture. Now there's a lot of companies that are remote. There's a lot of companies that have a lot of data that are remote. There's a lot of companies that are completely in the cloud that are remote. So you hire a developer, and you know they work. You've never met them. I've got a call after this with a product manager that I've never met in real life. She's incredible. Never met her in real life. I see her on Zoom every day, but like that wasn't a thing that happened 6 years ago.
Yeah,
um
I guess it's stuff that like entrepreneurs or founders would catch early, but someone that is not tech savvy and is not super like latest tech would not catch. I think like employees that typically are more vulnerable for these things. Same for wiring money to an account that just is not like one of your employees, right? Like to ransoms. Talking of, yeah. What are your thoughts on this?
So you say that like, oh, it's, not a tech company, not a founder. I can tell you right now that some of the biggest tech companies that have employed some of these people. Um, like this is like it is that good.
But
You've
HR
got
people are pretty naive, is my point.
I honestly don't think like the quality of these fakes is so good that if you're in a remote environment, because I mean, these companies are the companies themselves, specifically the ones that I know that have hired these people, it's not a one interview process. It's multi interviews. It's often code tests. Like, there's a process to this. The thing that they're skipping out on is verifying the identity, because this person has an identity. Like you when you pay them, there's a legitimate bank account. They've got their social security or social insurance number. They've got all of it's mostly they mostly pretend to be American. Um, so most of this stuff exists. It's just the person on the other side isn't solely the person. So the person that shows up to work, is going to look roughly like the person that was in the video, but it's not actually that person, which is the crazy part. So it's like, who's showing up to work every day?
Right. And is the ultimate solution like biometric? I just plug in my finger before I start
Yeah.
the coding test?
Yeah. I mean, biometrics, biometrics in the coding test, might be necessary, but biometrics before employment as part of a background check and ongoing. It's like I use the Uber driver example, and Uber's has fixed this, but like you get set up as an Uber driver and then you just give someone your phone and they go drive for you all day. It's like it's the same in software. It's like you've got to do it on a regular basis. You got to like, you know, you verify the identity of the person, and then you have biometrics on a regular basis. How do they access their computer? How do you know that it's them? Um, because it is real. Especially you got these IC developers that never meet anyone in real life, and they're sitting there coding. It's like, great, yeah, this IC developer has been doing this for 5 months, and vaguely, like looks pretty similar to the guy that we interviewed, right? Like in a big
And
company.
is Face ID like not becoming a thing? Is it like declining because of these deep fakes?
So I mean, Face ID is good. Um, ideally you have you have a dual biometric combination, so you've got face and fingers, for example, like fingerprints, um I mean 2FA, or ideally it's actually face not tied to the device, but tied to a database. So like, I could put my face on your phone and log into all of your apps, where if the app stores a biometric hash, I couldn't get into your apps. The other thing is, you know, I mean, you're not an average white guy, but to most other people, they'd look at us and be like, these are two average white guys. We could be relatively interchangeable. So like, you know, the same thing happens. And it's like, okay, how do you prevent that? And I mean, the long answer is like, or the short answer is like, do your homework when you're screening people, make sure they are who they say they are and they have their credentials and you've done references, especially for individual contributors in remote work environments that are handling access to data, because you are being targeted.
And coding tests, aren't they becoming irrelevant as well with an
Yeah.
AI that can code for me,
Yeah.
vibe coding type of stuff?
I mean, like I can build apps in Cursor now in days, like minutes, hours, like it's like, I mean, Cursor, among a bunch of other things. Um, and I mean, that's actually, it's kind of an interesting piece there, because coding tests in my mind are pretty irrelevant. It's got to be like outcome tests, because pretty soon, if not right now, anyone can deliver code. It's how do they solve problems? How do they communicate with the machine? And then soon, what do they bring with them? It's like, oh, hey, look, I got a Python bot that builds anything that I think of. It builds flawlessly into any existing system. And I spent all this time building this thing, my Python agent, and I'm managing 4 agents that are building for me, and I'm communicating with them. Like, those are the coders of the future. Like, those are the engineers that like they're going to be changing the game, because it's like, look, I'm 5 employees in one. Like, you don't need me
Yeah.
doing this like low level code. You need me explaining exactly the problem that we need to solve and how we're going to solve it.
Yeah, super engineers. And just before that, we're talking about the elite researchers at OpenAI being offered $100 million, which is friggin' insane. Um, my next question, last question for you, because I know you're on time. You've seen a lot of shit as the CEO of Certain. You know what has changed since you started this company? Your thoughts about human nature. The question: do most humans lie? I guess the answer is yes. But what does that mean for society? You know, and that if people are constantly like not telling the truth about themselves and reflecting their true selves.
I would say overall, people are good. It's like it's at like 99%. So I think I've never lost faith in humanity through this. I've become intrigued about the things that people do lie about, and when they do lie, because oftentimes they don't need to, they
Because
would have.
there's white lies and there's lies that are evil and toxic.
Exactly. And most people are generally good. My thing is like, I'm not setting out to like punish the bad people. Like, society can do that. My thing is like, how do we make it easier for good people? Like, how do we make it easier for great people, especially like regardless of where they're from? I'm Canadian. I live in Canada again, but I've moved all over the world. I moved to New York from Toronto. It's the largest migratory route, the largest international migratory route in the world. And I couldn't get a bank account. I couldn't get a place to live. And by Canadian standards, I had perfect credit and I was a homeowner. It's like, how do you like I'm very privileged to do that. How do we make it easier for that person that comes from any other country in the world? How do we make it easier for, the nurse that comes from the Philippines to get a job in Canada because we desperately need nurses? How do we make it easier for the doctor from the States, to move here because we desperately need doctor or from anywhere in the world? And so like to me it's like, how do we make this easier for great people? Not how do we make it harder for bad people? Because there will always be bad people. Um,
Yeah.
and they can wait in line.
Right, and
But
it's
if you're
other
great,
people's job to catch them, like police force, and there's other organizations for that. I like that you identified that and your specific mission and purpose. Yeah, thanks for coming on, Andy. Where can
thanks.
people find out more about you?
I'm on LinkedIn and Andrew McLeod, on Instagram, uh, the Facebook for us millennials here, and
Facebook,
the Facebook.
the
Um,
Facebook.
so yeah, hit me up where you can find me. Thanks for having me. This was fun.
My pleasure. That was Andy and Charles for another CEO with